Good evening, everyone, all the visionary principals, and to join us on a Sunday, and that to a very, very special Sunday. We have our very first All India Principals Roundtable session. And the pertinent question that we want to address today is that why is the educational community worldwide yearning and twitching to flip the script on assessment? So I am Neha Bahuguna, your host and moderator for the day, and I welcome you all to a session that is not going to be ordinary at all, because we have got some extraordinary, reputed principals, school leaders amongst us today, not just with our expert panel, but even as our audience. So I welcome you all, and let me give a brief introduction about myself. I am the Assessment Center Head at Army Public School, Shankar Vihar. That is why you will see the passion lighting with assessment. And all my 19 years in education, I've always been on the hunt for the next big thing in innovative learning so that the students can be empowered. And that is exactly how I had stumbled upon Neo AI, a futuristic tool. And I have always called it a superhero sidekick for learning. While all our educators are the actual superheroes, without the capes though. So let's welcome Shweta Tanwar, co-founder of Neo AI. Shweta, please share with us few insights on the journey and the vision behind this app.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Neha ma'am. Without taking too much time, I think one overarching theme of our journey that I would like to share with everyone was that, there is no shortcut to building something magical. And this became, the belief in this became stronger while building Neo AI because, I have worked in this industry for more than 10 years and in B2B SaaS per se. There are a lot of nice products that directly go to decision makers and sell. But here we have been able to create something really amazing out of the world. And I can confidently vouch that it is one of its own kind, not just in India, but in the whole world right now because of the approach we took. And the approach we took was work from bottom to upwards. So last year, around June, July, we started with just a bunch of students, right, who were preparing for their 10th boards and also their competitive. And we started subject-specific focused discussions on what difficulty they face in maths, what in science, what in history. And then we worked upwards. I just, crunch it down to a very brief highlight. So by December, January, we launched a 10th board-specific exam prep app for these students who helped us with sharing all the challenges that they face. And by March, we had the outcome, and that was phenomenal. So what we had worked on was, personalization for exam prep, because I think exam prep is something where the impact of personalization is maximum because you have limited time and you have so much syllabus and you have to prioritize that what you want to spend your time and energy on. And here personalization can be a game changer. So that is why personalization in exam prep, that is how we started specifically for 10th boards. And the results were there by March, April. We started with just about 40, 50 students, and there were more than 2,500 students who were automatically, they started using our app without any marketing that spoke for the effectiveness of the product and how the students were loving it. And then the teachers who were guiding their students, they got to know about, how come they're making so much progress. And then they got to know about this Neo AI. Back then we were calling it Beam. We later rebranded to Neo AI. But then the teachers approached us and said that they really, they're seeing the difference and their students are loving the UI and everything. So, and then they also asked us that if we could make an interface for teachers so that they can also see the insights from the personalization and they can guide their students better, they can help them, that'll be great. And that's how we started working on Neo Assistant. So we worked with the students, we worked with teachers. Neo Assistant has been a beautiful journey, and I think Neha ma'am has been with us from the very beginning of that journey, and a lot of other experts in this panel today. So we worked throughout the monsoons, right from April, May, June, July, and by August, we had a beautiful product for teachers which showed them how they can drive formative personalized assessments on day-to-day basis and how they can draw insights from that and then customize their lesson plans accordingly to increase the effectivity of the overall instruction. And meanwhile, we parallelly work with parents also. We did some interviews. So parents, they have a little hesitation towards technology, right? Because during COVID and especially in teenage, it is common that the students start misusing technology. So we had to cater to them as well, that how technology can make the whole system transparent. Right now, they don't know what the student is doing, where he's staring, where he needs support. But with technology, that transparency is possible for parents also. And after working with the students, the teachers, educators, parents, we finally are presenting our work to principals and decision makers. This is the first forum where we have invited the decision makers, while we have worked and have had one-on-one conversations with few of them. But we would like to take it out to everyone and learn from their experiences and see that what we have worked from bottom up fits in to what challenges they are facing today. So I think I took a little more time than I should have. So I think give it a pause here. And yes, so with that, Neha ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Shweta. And yes, so I raised my hand because Shweta, you overshoot the time. So that is the plan for the day. So a very, very warm welcome to the esteemed panel of principals joining us from across the nation. And together, the plan is to explore some bold new directions for assessment. And let's try and reimagine something. Today, we can not just find out what are the faults, what are the lags, but also dream. What do we want? So that is the aim for the session. I'll just do a quick overview. The session would be a 3 theme-based question and answer format with pertinent questions on assessment, but they'll be interspersed with some neo AI demos. And for the first round on the current challenges and the hidden values in assessment, we will aim for 1.5 minutes per expert. And we will aim to amp up the intensity with 1 minute per expert answers in the round 2, which will be on future needs and solutions. So round 3, the session 3, the last session is a surprise for all. So we'll start with our first round, and I would request Sanjay sir to unmute, and we will be ready with the first question for sir. So while sir is getting all ready and unmuting, I'll quickly go through the question for all the others also. The audience members, kindly post your queries in the chat. We will definitely get back to them towards the end of the session. And we hope that most of them will be solved, will be taken care of during the round itself. So Sanjay sir, good evening, sir. Shweta, could you help me?
Yeah, Neha, let me just check. I'm just calling and checking if he's...
All right, I think Shelly ma'am is here with us. She
Yeah, we can
was
move
here
forward,
before
yeah.
we actually started the meeting also. So let's start with Shelly ma'am. Shelly ma'am, how much time do you feel that it takes to get the insights from the current assessment processes? And do you feel that there should be something faster, or something that is real time? What are your views, ma'am?
Yeah. Thank you, Shweta. Time Crunch is here. So good evening, everyone. This is Shelly Mishra. If I'm coming directly on my question, which is the assessment insight timing and the critical data need, actually, in my whole journey, what I have seen initially, it was not taken care. It was like remedial. Students are only just assessed with their academic performances in the exam, and then they will be given the similar type of remediation. Where somewhere we also have done the metamorphosis in our own technology also, in our own systems also. So whatever assessments nowadays, the class tests are also there, continuous evaluations are there, portfolios are there. Accordingly, we are analyzing. But definitely, it takes time. The manual gathering, waiting for the data to be assembled, then the analysis, then the critical data on which we are developing the individual plans for the students, because which is the current need, which I can simply say in terms of inclusive and independent plan for the students as well as for the teachers. And the most important challenge which we are still facing is the same approach by the teachers. Those are dealing with the same child. We are not having the mother teacher concept. We are not having the true mentor system. We assign the mentors, but the mentors are okay. You have done this, checklist is there. But what is the data interpreting about that child to be taken care? So the same mindset from all the faculties should be developed, and on the basis of this, the individual card should be developed for the child. And many a times, I think all my fellow leaders will agree with this, that we are just emphasizing on the current class. We don't know from where that gap has been created, how to recover that. And there is always probably they are also facing this. Whenever we demand for such things with the teachers, that you sit with the junior class teachers and just take the worksheets and take the help from them, somewhere so-called their own self-esteem, or I can say self-parameter, getting shaken. How come we go and tell? And now we have to do this also. So somewhere after associating with Neo also, I am telling even the digital tool which we are coming with, the technology nowadays. So at least we are getting the personal learning cards, which is really very helpful, and it is helping the teachers also. Because as soon as you are asking them, okay, this child require around 6 revision cycles to reach for that particular level. So the timing, the teacher pressure, the data analysis, everything is coming all together for them, and they are finding it a burden. Teachers are finding it as a burden. So as a leader, we are always trying to provide them a review only. Okay, this is the thing. The child X is having this problem. You have to work only this.
Yeah. Thank you, Shelly ma'am.
So that's from
I
my
got the
point of
answer
view. Thank
that
you.
yes, it is time consuming, not only because of the personalization, it is also time consuming because we have to do the gap analysis, then only remediation is possible. Thank you so much, ma'am. Moninder ma'am, good evening. I would like you to help us understand when parents ask about their child's specific learning gaps, because this is the point which Shelly ma'am raised, which makes the task even more confusing for the teachers, even more complicated and time consuming. So when the specific learning gaps comes in the question and parents want to know about it, what is the process as the school leaders, as school that we follow?
Yeah, very good evening to everybody here present. The first thing which which clicked me while you spoke and ma'am was speaking was when the parents come in collaboration during not only the PTM meetings, ma'am, it is also when they are in direct contact. Let us just start with that pre-COVID era type when they wanted different type of expectations were there, and after COVID, what expectations when the students had the hybrid learning. So the point here is that they were expecting at that time also some things, and right now they are just betting on all of us. The parents are actually betting more on, this bet word, actually it's a mnemonic, you can say. So it goes as better learning experience they want for their children. They want equity. Many of them either inclusive or the disadvantaged group, whichever. We are talking about them also here. They are there in that how the education rights would work on it. And then, of course, the trust and confidence which can be built. We cannot just check on with the academics and tell that here we are with the first rank holders. It also matters when we talk about the pressure on how the life skills are bound to happen during the curriculum process which goes on. So when we talk about the learning gaps here, dear friends, it is, moreover that how the consideration will start. There is a proper plan here, which you can go stepwise. I was just going through some blogs and a lot of research work done in journals from Pearson's and Cambridge also. So just came across very small things. Well, the first one was, how are you going to identify? The parents are expecting every time that how are the schools going to identify the teachers sitting in the class, one-to-one interaction with the children? How are they going to identify the gaps? The second one, how are they going to conduct the learning environment and assessment so that these things can open up and the children can just bridge that gap of learning? And that can, the main baseline here matters is the learning outcomes. First for the teachers is the first and foremost function. What learning outcomes were they expecting? What did it come in form of either paper, formative assessments, summative assessments? And now what will be the next action plan? Among all the steps which I just found, the third step was the most difficult one. Now, what is the action plan? What we can do to bridge up that gap? So differentiated instructional strategies can work down here. It's not only, the teacher comes, even if the many schools have their smart boards, they have the hybrid teaching methods and all, including that, why not they have different strategies of storytelling is in, art integration is in, then different type of learners are in. So how to work out on that, that becomes the action plan here, ma'am. And the next one is targeted support. The support doesn't only come from the teachers and the administration of the school, it also comes from the parents. How well they are aware, how well they are going to collaborate with to bring the child best. We don't want a child to do PhD in class 3rd or 4th. The point is, how are they going to do it? How are they just going to become person where they are knowledgeable enough to face this world's challenges? And then finally, accommodation, extra time limit has to be given to different interest of the children, which can be worked out during not only the PTA meetings, a type of assessment tool, which will showcase the clear picture of the child, not only in academics, but in all life skills also. That's
Thank
it.
you so much, Moninder ma'am. The biggest takeaway was that when parents want to know the learning gaps, it is not just the academics that as school leaders we need to focus on. It is their holistic development that we need to talk about so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
all the stakeholders part, their role can also be discussed.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much, ma'am,
Thank
for the
you.
insight.
Thank you.
Neerja ma'am, good evening, Neerja ma'am. Welcome for the session, ma'am. Your question for the summative examinations, like the board exams, like Shweta was talking about how NEO started with the board examinations. So for these summative examinations, would you like to tell us how you currently identify and support the students who need some sort of intervention so that they can do well for that summative exam?
Right. So first of all, a very good evening to everyone present in the panel and all the viewers also. It's a very apt question, and I'm very happy that UAI is taking this up at this very correct time, when it is a high time for all of us to think about the assessment and the preparations of the students. So first thing that I have seen entire career is that before focusing on the students, let's focus on the teachers and those who are the mentors in the classrooms as well as outside the classroom. So when I talk about the assessment, I definitely talk about the preparations first. When we talk about the preparations, it's very much required to see the learning gaps, as Madam Moninder also said that the learning gaps have to be identified properly. Now, when we talk about learning gaps, there are learning gaps due to X, Y, Z. So many reasons, so many factors that we really need to look in. It's not just the academics. So basically, the leaders should, rather most of the leaders do it. We should be able to identify exactly what is the problem in the classroom. And I don't know if on this platform I should say this or not, but in my career, I have seen that the problem first lies with the kind of technology, the pedagogy we are using in the classroom. Because the expected results depends upon the efforts. And efforts to be have to be identified properly. Like if the problem is identified, definitely the efforts have to be made in the right direction to overcome the problem. So what we do in our system, we first of all think about the kind of pedagogy needed to be induced in the classroom in order to fill up the gaps. Secondly, we look for the preparations of the children, the portfolio of the children, what all kinds of problems they are facing inside the classroom, outside the classroom. Remedials comes in the later stage. First is to identify what exactly is causing the problem. Most of the times I've seen in my career that the problem comes during the flow of the pedagogy, flow of the lesson inside the classroom. Now, when I talk about the lessons, I would not fail to talk about lesson plans. Most of the schools fail to take care of exactly how the lesson plans should be taken up. So if this thing has to be, the bridging of the gap has to be done, we need to follow proper system wherein each and every aspect is taken care. I'm sorry, I'm exceeding the time. I would take it up next time, but all I take it up. Thank you so much.
No, ma'am, you were bang on time. And the beautiful thread that ma'am has given us is that we have to identify from the beginning not just the learning gaps, but also what are the needs at that particular stage so that they can be helped for the summative assessment. So taking from here, Nachma ma'am, good evening. Nachma ma'am, I would like you to help us understand that during the admission procedure, what is the process that is followed? That is different for all the schools, I understand, but we just wanted an insight that how is a student mapped to a specific grade or to some special sections if we have some ability grouping that probably some schools do. So what Nija ma'am was trying to say was where the student is. That is the most important thing. Then only the pedagogy, then only the interventions can come in. So I want you to help us understand that what kind of procedure you follow for admissions, so that to analyze where the student is and how to map the student to something specific, something special probably you have. Yes, Najma ma'am.
A very pleasant evening to all of you. And that's a very good question. Let me tell you, there is a process that every school typically follows. There's a structured approach to assess and map a student to place the student in appropriate grade or a section. Every school has a structured plan. First is like, whenever a new student is entering in a school, first of all, they fill in the application. And during the time when they are filling in the application, we are taking some details of the students about their academic history, previous school, and school details, and other relevant information. That is the first step that we go through. Either it is done on paper basis, or because these days technology is at its boom, most of the schools are having, their own learning management system. And through the system, they just register the child for the admission. So what happens is, and some of the schools these days are just sending a kind of Google form to register the new students, right? And it becomes easy to collect the data also. to just take it up later if the child is in the school. If the child is registered and if the admission is all done, it is easy to maintain the records. But when it comes to the assessment part, to find out what is the level of the child, there's a kind of placement test. There's a kind of entrance test every school has prepared. Okay, and this entrance test it's generally prepared based on the standards that are required for a particular child to go to particular grade, because we do not know what is the level of the child who is going to write the entrance exam, right? So what we do is we give them the placement test. Then after we correct the exam, then when the correction is done, then seeing the performance of the child, we decide that this, because some of the schools, what I see is they have different sections. They have, like in my school, I have all my sections are like, in one section, there are different levels of students. I have not put them like this is the section, all the students are A level, A grade. They all are, above average, or they are excellent students. No, we have put, we have just made a combination of different levels of students. Only thing is we differ the instruction that we are going, that we plan according to the level of the students that we have in the class. But some of the schools, what do they do is they have sections where when they are taking admissions, they just put the child in a different level, and they know that let me place this child in section A, B, or C. That will suit him better because they know the level of the students in that particular class, and they think, yes, this section is going to be better for this particular child who is just going to take a new admission. This is how we have placement test. That is why we do placement test when the child is coming for admission process. Then after that, we also keep track of the age criteria. That is very, very important. And also we have a kind of interview at times with this child to know the language, know how fluent is the child in the language. And also we assess, during the assessment, we see their performance in mathematics, we see their performance in science subject, and also the language. These three things are kept in, we just take care of these things and then go for the admission process.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And you brought in a wonderful point, which was not just where the child stands, but a history of the learning entire graph of a child. So, Sanjay sir, do we have you in the session?
Yes, Neha ma'am. I'm sorry for being late.
No problem, sir. So, very interesting question, sir. It's good that we got to talk a little late, because right now, ma'am just now mentioned about the history. A student's learning history is an important part of the admission procedure. So I would like you to help us understand how much of a teacher's time do you estimate is spent in not just the manual assessment process, but also on this maintaining this log, this learning log, which can be used as a history. Suppose the child moves to a new level, a new class, a new school. So how do you understand the teacher time that is involved in all this?
Well, certainly it is something that is time consuming, because observation reports that a teacher writes have to be very, very meticulous and detailed, because you can't pass a judgment. You see, in the days gone by, the general comment was, and if you remember, we can all laugh at that, can do better. And that used to be the end of it all. Nowadays, it's very important that you identify, especially with the learning being differentiated into what are you looking for. You have to see the child's ability to absorb the information that is given, to collate it, to put it in a different manner, the skill sets that are there. Pedagogy has certainly undergone a lot of change, that now we are identifying the weak areas differently. So you can't just give a sweeping remark. You have to tell exactly where the learning gaps are, and then try and learning. And that is what differentiated learning is all about. So answering your question, yes, a lot of time of the teacher goes into maintaining the records, and before that, identifying the learning curve of a child. Now, the solution, because when we talk of problems, we have to go for solutions. So there are assessments which assess these automatically. So when the speaker before me was talking about, entrance exam being taken, I certainly am not a great fan of an entrance exam, but we do something what we call as a baseline exam, just to set the baseline of it, because sometimes parents walk in and say, well, my child was doing very well in the previous school, and this year somehow the performance has dropped. So what we like to do is establish a baseline as to where the child was in terms of the reading, writing, arithmetic skills, and inform the parent that, look, we feel that for this particular grade, your child is either perfect or a little lacking. We do not discard anybody on basis of that. We do not put them into sections. All our sections are of children with mixed ability. So we don't have A for good and C for bad. And but at the same time, yes, their anecdotal records are there, and we map their progress throughout their stay in the school, and also provide it to the next one in case the child is leaving.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Shweta, I would like you to tell us something about how Neo app and how the tools that you have put, how they are going to support these 4-5 points we talked about. So we talked about maintaining this anecdotal learning log for the student and bringing in something related to the gaps, finding the gaps first, identifying. So would you like to show us some of the features?
Yes. I just take this opportunity to show that how we have designed the profiling, holistic profiling. Like there are a lot of experts who also mentioned that it just cannot be just about academics. And then I'll show how the report turns out after this profiling. So we will just quickly see that what kind of questions are there and what's the overall interface like. So there is one academic profiling. Like the student opens this from the mobile app or the Neo AI lab, so they can access it in browser also in the desktop, and they start the assessment. So there is a timer as well, and that kind of is also taken into account while doing the reports of the child. And there's an FLN module which is adapted to the grade level. Just to find, because we found in our research that a lot of the students, even in their middle and secondary stages, they struggle with basic numeracy and literacy. So to do a profiling from scratch, we thought that this is also a very important module that we should include. You can pay attention to the questions, the kind of questions that are coming in each kind of test. And now we also have a profiling on accessibility tests. So for example, color blindness, or for checking for autism, these kind of things. So here also we have converted everything in a very friendly MCQ format itself. So this one is for the color blindness one. So this happens, and these are all like different tests. So student can come and take all of them in a go, or they can. Then there is something on working memory. This one is like really nice. It's very engaging to work with also. So and it is adaptive. So if the student is doing good, it automatically the levels becomes a little difficult. So I have to recall the sequence, and I think I got it wrong. So, but if I would have gotten it right, then the sequence would have become like longer, and then it keeps becoming longer until the child reaches the threshold. And so we saw academic, FLN, accessibility, working memory, processing speed, and attention span. And then there are questions on competencies. So this is how the overall profiling happens. And then how the report turns out is here in the school dashboard or management dashboard. So here I'll directly go to the report section. So let's see report of Anika Sharma. And it's just right. So here we can see what is the overall academic profile of Anika, right? And what are the different concepts, and in that also whatever weak concepts are there, I can tap on it. I can see that within a specific subject what concepts she is struggling with. And I can also start AI remedial from here. I get a complete competency analysis of her. I also get to see a learning style matrix wherein for learning stage, her motivation type, her study schedule pattern, all of these things are marked in a grid. And I can see the AI analysis also of this. So for those who do not want to see the data in numbers and grids, there are a lot of people who are like that. Some of us are analytical, some of us are a little more, we like subjective things, right? So for them, there is an overall analysis of everything in text format. What are her key strengths? What are the optimal career paths? What are the learning enhancement strategies that would work specifically for Anika? What can be her professional development tips? Red flags to watch. So all of this analysis comes for each and every child. Now, this is her prior learning index. So she is in class 10, but we can see that for grade 9th, 8th, 7th, and 6th, the prerequisite concepts that are required for grade 10th, how she is faring in that. Her FNL module for the literacy one and the numeracy ones, her social and emotional traits. So all of this is there for every child in a very clean format. And this we saw at a child level, but the school can also see at the grade level. So if I want to go and see at grade 10, I can see how many total assessments have been done, what is the mastery in any specific subject. I can also drill down, go into that specific subject and see at chapter level, what is the submission rate, what is the score like, how many worksheets have been sent, what were the submissions in that. And I can see all the student data for that specific subject, outperforming students, support needed students. So there are a lot of things here, but I will try to keep it short and keep it in time. This is the overall assignment manager, wherein I can see the history of all the worksheets, homeworks, revisions, everything that was being sent, and I can actually see it from subject wise, class wise also. If I specifically want to see for maths, I can put a filter and I can see all the data here. And this one, I will probably save it for later in interest of time, but it's a very interesting feature, the competitions one, to attract new admissions, right? So school can host competitions which other school students can also participate in. And it works really wonders for the schools who are new and they want to kind of, do a little brand awareness and stuff. But in the interest of time, I will stop this here, and maybe we can plan a demo later for those who want to see the overall dashboard.
Thank you so much, Shweta. And I won't like to comment. We will save the comments from the audience. So let's move on with our round one. We are lagging behind. So quick question from Chitra ma'am. Chitra ma'am, good evening.
Good evening.
Ma'am, I would like you to tell us how often do you find that the learning gaps have been identified, but they are now too late for doing something, effective intervention. So how do you manage such situations?
Yeah, actually, though we say the academic year is 1 year, but actually it is around 6, 7, exclusive of all the holidays and other things. By the time we recognize the child, by the time the child owns up that the child is having some kind of problem, and also we have to convince, I'm talking about grade 10, 12 and other things. The parent also should understand, the child should understand. Most of the time by the end of November or December, etc. And last year, what I would like to share a case study. Last year, what has happened, till the end of January, we couldn't catch hold of a child whom we understood is really lacking in mathematic skills. So we had to somehow convince the child, make the child sit, teach the child some important concepts, etc. The child understood, and after that, what was the comment? Is it this much? If I had known it earlier, I would have excelled in all my exams. I wouldn't have developed this much of stress. So the point is, the teacher spends more time, this is reality, more time in preparing the question paper, which the child is supposed to write in 3 hours time, which hardly it completes in 1 hour, 1.5 hours. After that, the child is refusing to go through the content also. The teacher writes comment for each question, what the child has attended, what has not been attended. Previously, I saw the demo where Shweta has demonstrated everything very clearly, which the teacher is taking so much pains, sitting and writing everything. Ultimately, it's given to the child. What the child does? Oh, this is the mark. Okay. Never even opens the paper. Where the teacher has taken so much strain to sit and write. I know a teacher who is to maintain a separate diary to write which question the child lacks, what concept the child has lacked, whether other arithmetic error or the formula error, etc. So it is most of the time, it takes end of November or so for mutual understanding. So after that, the stress on the child as well the teacher gets from the principal, from the management, everybody, it is really rising. So if we get new AI, such tools, it would be very, very easier so that the child is really benefited. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chitra ma'am. Such an honest answer by a leader. It is wonderful. Mini ma'am, good evening, Mini ma'am. Taking from the identification of the gaps to the formative assessments. How frequently do you feel that formative assessment should be conducted? Or you can also share us the way how you do it in your school. And I would also like you to help us understand that how do you handle this trade-off between giving a detailed feedback, which the student can understand, the parents can understand, the gaps can be understood at the right time, and how the quick turnaround is possible.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So thank you for all the discussion that we've been having. Yes, formative assessment is something that I'm a part of Cambridge School, and formative assessments are very important because this is a way of encouraging children, and we call it as assessment for learning. Now, the frequency of it helps us in terms of identifying any kind of gaps, if at all, on timely basis. Now, when I'm talking about formative assessment, it is conducted at a very short span. For example, if a teacher might have just finished about 2 topics, she need not essentially have a paper pencil test, because ultimately the goal is to see that the learning has happened. So teachers use various forms of assessment tools to identify the learning for children. And that way, our children are trained, they get into a routine of doing their daily study habits. With that, the benefit is that at the end of year, when there is semester, there is no burnout. There's no need for children to be burning their midnight oil. And this has been very, very effective. We ourselves have seen a marked difference that when there was a model back then, when there was only semester exams and formative was not there, there has been a 30% improvement in total academic scores of all students having introduced formative assessment, because now they are all used to doing their daily studies. It's not just about filling papers or doing a lot of rigorous work, but it is about being able to relate to, being able to understand things, making those connections to the real world. Coming to your second part of the question, where you talk about how do we make the correctors, one of the panelists did mention about the mentorship, and that has been something very, very successful for us, because at the end of whether it is formative or summative, we have a system of doing paper confirmation, wherein we discuss with each child or what what was their strength, what was the weakness, where their misunderstanding was, all of that. And the mentorship, how that helps us is teacher is aligned to the students in terms of keeping a close tab of, have you understood things? Have you not understood? How can I help you? Where are those learning gaps? Now, with that, we timely also keep our parents informed about it. And yes, I think one of the delegates did mention about how intense it gets, because teachers are putting in all of these efforts. And sometimes there are those 1 or 2 few learners who probably are not diligent enough to be following back on the comments or the feedback or the mentorship program that happens. So I'm sure that tools like Neo AI will definitely help give those progression scores to the students, which helps. Also, I would like to add one more thing. At Cambridge, we are Pathway School. What we also do is, at every juncture, in early years, we have something called as baseline assessment, which is a similar kind of tool. And it helps parents to know, for example, that when a child enters early years 2, the child had a vocabulary of, let's say, about 20 words. And by end of the academic year, the child has now maybe, person to person it differs, has 70 words in the vocab. Similarly, this kind of thing happens at the end of grade 5, which is checkpoint of the primary years. There's a checkpoint introduced at grade 8 level, the lower secondary, before they move on to the board. So at every juncture, they are getting those kind of feedback, timely feedback, and it really helps them design a module going forward towards when they're going for the higher studies. I'm sorry if I overshot the time.
Thank you so much, Mini ma'am. It was all insightful. Rupali ma'am, good evening. Rupali ma'am, now that we have moved from the gap analysis to actually working with what the student has, the data that now we are working with. Rupali ma'am, I would like you to help us understand what predictive insights would you like a system to present for your students? And is there any system that you have in your school that you use to analyze the correct assessment data to generate any such predictive insight?
Yeah, good evening and hello everyone. I'm Rupali Hazare, Principal of Nagesh Karasge Orchid School. Very happy to meet you all together on this platform. Predictive insights are really very, very important in improvement of the result. Assessment is done to check how many learning outcomes have been achieved, how many skills are developed, what are the behavioral changes are seen in the child or not. The assessment is not for just one time, but it is a continuous process. According to NEP 2020, if we see, child must be assessed by 360 degree, where peer assessment, teacher's assessment, parent assessment, and self-assessment, all factors are important. So here, if we see the predictive insights, if we need to improve the result, then obviously when we conduct the assessment, by the time the teachers check the paper, prepare the result, then the teachers come up with the feedback, then they identify the learning gaps, then result analysis is prepared, and then somewhere the action plan to do the remedial action is prepared. So it will be too late, because see, first exam which we conduct in our school is periodic test 1. By the time we prepare the result, we come up with the action plan, the term 1 will come. Okay, so as academic year is too short, predictive insights are very important. In time only it should be done. So in our school, we have 1-to-1 lab wherein the teachers set a quiz. After finishing every chapter, they set a quiz. Students appear for that. They attempt all the questions. Then personalized result is prepared, and exactly where the child stands in the class, what is his position, how much he understand, which questions he has done, has attempted wrongly, the everything, the analysis is in front of the teacher. Then though we have the system at place, but identifying this gap with the help of AI and then working out on that is very important factor here, because each and everybody's learning gap is something different. Then generating the worksheets, and it should be adaptive worksheets, that becomes again a hectic job for all the teachers. So even as we all know that if we can predict the results in time, then early interventions are possible. We can communicate the things, we can involve the parents in the improvement of the child, we can even inform the parents about what are the expectation, what are the problems faced by the teacher to improve that particular child. And if all these things are considered, then definitely it will be very helpful for all of us to improve that child particularly. Even if we see the Gartner's 2023 education technology report, it shows that AI powered predictions improve intervention success rates by 67%, because we don't want any personalized or subjective interpretations or predictions. If we want to be very accurate, because when we consider a teacher is dealing with around 240 students, then how we expect a human being to be very particular to assess each and every child very meticulously. So I don't want to take much time, I want to wrap it in time. Thank you very much. But what I feel is predictive insights are really very important to improve the result. Thank you.
You have taken the thread forward with personalization for the students. So Mayank sir, would you like to help us answer the question that personalization is important to understand, to enhance the learning outcomes of the students? What do you feel, sir? You think personalization is that important? I think we'll get back to Mayank sir in a while. Shweta, why don't you show us how personalization is offered in the Neo AI app, and also try and show us the adaptive assessment features that are there and how predictive the analytics can be with the AI assisting tool. Shweta, you are muted.
Right. So I'll just first show a bit of personalization in action. And this is so the same profile of a student that we saw earlier, right? So some things are already taken into account, like her working memory, her attention span. And the personalization will also happen on the go, depending on what question she's doing right, what she's getting wrong, and what subjects they are from. So I'll just give a little context that, for example, for mathematics or science concepts, after the quiz is over, there would be a set of diagnostic questions to understand that if the student got few questions wrong, then why he got them wrong. So we will drill down into the conceptual hierarchy of those concepts. But if it is a theoretical subject like history, then we will reinforce, because then that the student has to first remember, that knowledge has to be there. So in that case, there would be spaced repetition that will kick in, not diagnostic. So we will just see that in action. It's just about a 1-minute video. And just pay attention to how the personalization. This is a home page. Student goes, takes the homework, all subject test. It's AI recommendation. So it will be mixed of all of the subjects. So there's this question from biology, and then mathematics, another one from mathematics. And if the student gets the questions right or wrong, so there is that instant feedback also that the student gets, that why he got that wrong, what was the correct answer, and some nice animations to keep the student in the state of flow so he's motivated. And then there are case-based questions as well. And this one is from chemistry. Again, immediately they get to see why it was wrong. And then the personalized remedial happens. Now, it immediately follows the main quiz, wherein whatever questions he got wrong, for them, we will run the diagnostic. And yeah, I think I will stop this one at here. Instead of, like, I would like to show quickly here in the dashboard how you can see, the management can also see some of the worksheets. Like, we will go to grade 10 and just a second. We'll go to progress report. And here we have the profile of the student. This is the profile. And after going into a specific subject, let's say we want to go into, just 1 second. I think. Right here. So, I think it is available from the the teacher dashboard. I will probably take it up towards the end of this. But what I really wanted to show that there are different kind of worksheets that go. One the teacher can assign, and one that AI automatically sends. So that works on the spaced repetition depending on the personal forgetting curve of the student. So in the interest of time, I will just stop here and I'll take the demos towards the end. Neha ma'am, I think we'll continue with the round.
Okay, thank you, Shweta. The personalization is a great feature. And personally, I'm a passionate student empowerment ambassador. So this feature is very attractive personally to me. So we'll move on. Pratibha ma'am is with us. She's from Delhi. And Pratibha ma'am, would you please help us understand the extent to which you feel that as the head of the school, being the leaders, you're able to personalize the assessment?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me in this session. Thank you, Shweta, and thank you, Neha. So we are personalizing assessments in the school because we have children with different backgrounds. And of course, there are some children with special needs. So we do personalize assessments for them. Further, we also have competency-based assessment in school. We have formative assessments in school. And there are times when we tailor the formative assessments to suit the needs of the learner. However, we are not taking it to a large extent. And as your question says, what stops us from personalizing the assessments so much is, I think, the teachers mostly have 40 students in a classroom. So asking a teacher to tailor or personalize assessments for just about 10 students only may be quite challenging for her, given the time and workload our teachers have. Then further, sometimes at primary level, teachers may be teaching more than one subject. So it can be really challenging. Further, I think that we need to have capacity building programs for the teachers where we orient the teachers about what is personalized assessment and how to cater to needs of various learners. So, capacity building of teachers towards this area will be very important. We talk so much about personalized learning. However, we don't talk as much about personalized assessment, and I'm glad you got this question into the panel. So with the teachers already handling 40 students, and for them, it will be really a challenging task to tailor the assessments, maybe just for 10 students at a time. So I think we'll need to help them with AI tools like you are sharing with us, and we need to have some type of training or capacity building of the teachers where we tell them, find out the learning gaps and tailor the assessments or prepare the assessments as per their needs. However, the big catch would be the board exams of classes 10th and 12th in CBSE or in other boards, where the board exams, of course, would not cater to the personalized assessment. They would have a general question paper. So we'll have to get the balancing act act of personalizing assessments carefully. It's a great concept because personalized assessment should be diagnostic and formative. So it being diagnostic and formative will lead to better learning. But then finally, in the boards, they get one question paper. So we need to balance all this carefully. There's lots more to discuss, but I understand time is a constraint. So over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am mentioned about learning outcomes. Vibha ma'am. Good evening, Vibha ma'am.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Vibha ma'am. I would like you to help us understand whether boosting the learning outcomes of the students is actually the something that makes the schools grow. Is it just the board results? Is it maybe the curricular activities? Is it the admissions, the number of admissions, or the learning outcomes of the students also have a role in it? What do you think, ma'am?
Yes. First, I'll thanks to Sweta madam. So she conducted so nice program, and thanks to you, you are also organized very nicely. And it is a very important question for us because now it is only few months is left for the examinations. And 10th class, we are talking about the 10th class because 12th class is a little bit mature. But 10th class, when they are coming, pass out the 8th class and they're coming 9th and 10th, they are mentally, they are not so mature. Depend upon the student to student, and we are teaching them so many things, but we have to through discrimination we have to divide the classes in 3 parts. Those are very excellent, those are average, and those are below. So through learning outcomes we come to know. So first we have to teach each and every lesson very nicely, we explain them, then we ask the question. I'm agree for that, it is very difficult for teachers, but after that we have to give the time. If we want good results, so we have to give them time. And suppose 10 students will one day will have to take 10 students like that, because since 40 years it is my experience. So I saw it depend upon the maximum things depend upon the teachers one. They personally they have to ask, and if they have problem, then they discuss with the parents. Because what happens, in this class, the students are not clarifying anything. Some are saying you go tuition, they are going tuition. Some are going to do this coaching. They are not determined what they have to do. So, madam, actually everything depend upon the technology only. Morning to evening, they are depend upon these mobiles and this all. Madam, this this AI, this very good, very good. Teachers are appreciating because I asked what you learned from there. They said many things we learned, but it is now this year is the first year, so they are not applying everything on the classes. But next, slowly, they have to get the benefit for that, and they have to apply and they get the benefit. So I request to all principal or all management, they have to see personally, to see each and every student how they have to move. If they have any problem, now it is time we have to improve. Otherwise, January, February, it is a pre-board exam where they have to time. So this November, December, they have to work very hard. They have to see where they have to improve, and then they contact to the principal, they contact to the management. Madam told they have management also, they have to facilitate the new AI. They have to see what is the performance of the student. It is very good. Otherwise, sometimes we are discussing with the teachers what the performance. They say, okay, madam. No, it is a very nice through this one. We have to see each and everything, and we come to know. I hope we have to work together and get the good result. Thank you.
Thank you, Vibha ma'am. Thank you. Prakash sir, good evening, Prakash sir. A very interesting question for you, sir. How much percentage of schools total the resources, time, management, people, money, how much percentage of a school's total resources are being spent towards conducting assessments? And what would you say? Has it been showing an increasing graph or a decreasing graph, say after the COVID times? So on to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Neha. And I really appreciate the points which were shown by Ms. Shaili on the metamorphosis and the gap that is there created. Nirja Miss was telling about the proper digital pedagogy that we require. So I'll be very crisp in the question to be answered because 1 hour is already over. And this is the high time for me to say about in a very simple way, because I know that there are at least a few among the members of the audience of this webinar are coming from the category of the school managements. So they will be having a different kind of approach towards the allotment of the fund in the school system. For example, if I say PwC, we know very well it is nothing but PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is situated in London, and that is one among the best accounting firms in UK, one among the 4 best accounting firms in UK. PwC reports, I will tell you. What it is they're told, at present, in a very simple mathematical calculation on an economic basis alone, I'm going to talk to the school managements and the school principals, who are allotting the fund for AI empowered tools. They would be very keen on these economic aspects of this innovation or technology, which is going to get introduced in the school system. In a simple way, I can say that PwC report, what it says is nothing but 20% of the entire budget of a school. Actually, it is used at present only for the traditional assessment. For example, if I say 1 lakh rupees their total budget for a school, just an example I am saying, out of this 1 lakh, 20%, that means 20,000 is there entirely used for the traditional form of assessing the students. It's a huge investment from the part of the management only for conducting the traditional assessment. It is a significant financial commitment from the part of the management to conduct this traditional form of assessment. Now let us see a report which is made by the Forrester Research, which is an organization, an American research firm, which has given on a return of investment study, ROI study. In the return of investment study, what it says is 62% of the assessment as of now that we are using can be served if we are using AI empowered tools. In a simple way, I'll tell you, the school management representatives, I'll tell you, suppose 1 lakh is the budget that you have allotted for the present traditional assessment. You can save 62%, 62,000 can be served, and you need to spend only 38,000 fund for getting the students assessed by using AI empowered tools. So clearly we can easily understand how much benefit the school management is going to get if AI empowered tools are used for assessing, whether it is summative assessment or formative assessment or diagnostic assessment. Everything can be replaced by generative assessment or GA that is completely empowered by artificial intelligence tools. So it will be there improving the resource allocation, and potential savings will be there, and there will not be significant financial commitment. So being the representative of one of the prominent schools in the state of Tamil Nadu, I request the school management people need to think in an economic aspects, in a financial aspect, as education has become a knowledge business. Think implementing AI empowered tools. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. It was, I think, a very different perspective, because as the school leaders, we are more involved in how to do things and what to make the teachers do, how to engage this, how to engage that. But we forget how there are other ways to make the entire system more effective. So, Prakash, sir, I'll ask you just a 30-second, a quick, something related to the future needs. So, sir, what would real-time assessment insight allow you to do differently in your school? 30 seconds, sir.
Sir, thank you. I'll tell you, my dear Ms. Neha, because in an international perspective, if you say a few countries alone, I just want to compare. Because, for example, if you take Germany, there are 3 categories of exams which are there happening in the country. One is nothing but the final exam with which the students will be getting an entry into the collegiate level of education, and the other is standardized test. Standardized test is nothing but that test on mathematics, language, and the science. And the normal school-based assessments are also there happening, projects, presentations, and written works and all. When you come to France, what we are seeing is centralized system. When you compare France and UK, what we are seeing is a decentralized educational system where the focus is on standardized test and formative assessment. Now I am inviting your attention to Finland, what is there happening, because normally we will be there thinking about how Finnish school education is there happening and how that assessment is there happening. Emphasis on assessment, especially formative assessment, and other one, as Ms. Neha has already pointed out, holistic development of the children is there getting analyzed. And if you take Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, the focus is primarily on another aspect that is nothing but self-assessment apart from formative assessment. If you come to US, I can definitely be there able to say the 3 aspects. It is nothing but critical thinking skills of the students, and the problem-solving skills of the students, analytical skills of the students. Finally, I am coming to an answer that is asked by Ms. Neha. If the schools are there empowering with AI tools, I am telling that the critical thinking skills of the students, problem-solving skills of the students, analytical skill assessment, everything can be there happened only by using AI-empowered tools.
Thank you, sir. Shweta, we need sir. We want to listen to him more.
Yes,
Good
yes,
evening,
we'll
sir.
do
Good
that.
evening. Vibha ma'am, please let us know how would you feel that the teacher's effectiveness will change with something like a new AI? Vibha ma'am? Okay, Lakshmi Mohan sir is not there. We have Pratibha Kohli ma'am with us. Pratibha ma'am, welcome back again. And what do you think, Pratibha ma'am, would be a game changer in assessment technology for your school?
See, not only for my schools, overall for the country, we are totally relying on pen paper tests. Whereas any student who may not be writing so well may be very good in expressions, may be very good in his communication skills. So our examination system or our assessment system is totally pen paper based. We get the sample papers, we make the children practice and they perform well. However, redesigning the assessment in terms of 21st century skills, where we find out the communication skills, the collaboration, the critical thinking, creativity, if all that could really assess the student at the time he or she leaves school, then our assessment would be more holistic and more meaningful. So it's still just pen paper based. You have to get a lot of questions, learn a lot of answers, and then you just answer there. However, it's still not holistic, and we still need to work more towards finding out their communication skills, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and getting that into our assessment system. Thank you
so much. Thank you, ma'am. Mike, sir, how do you think that instant performance insight will transform the admission decisions that you take?
I think he's not there. He'll skip.
Not a problem. It was a wonderful question. We would like it addressed at the end. Rupali ma'am, are you there?
Yeah, yes, I'm there.
Okay. Rupali ma'am, what impact would early intervention alerts have on the student learning outcomes?
Yes, surely. See, after pandemic, the word early in education will be not the apt word, because already it's too late for all of us to improve the child, because as you all know, during pandemic, a lot of loss was there, academic loss was there. They have not attended properly the classes. They have not achieved the learning outcomes. And after pandemic, still last 3 years, we are struggling very hard. So there won't be any word early, but yes, our interventions are very important. Now see, our first important thing is here, if we can come up with the action plan in the beginning with early interventions, then definitely it will help us to
Rupali
improve
ma'am, can
the
we
child.
go point wise? One great point you gave us is the plan, the action plan that we can create. What would be the second point be, ma'am?
Yes, see, we have many challenges like multiple intelligence and the type of learners also, and other physical and psychological and emotional factors which are influencing the progress of the child. If an academic year, if we see, it's very short. So if we can come up with the interpretation and early we come with the interventions, then definitely we can manage all the activities of the
So
school
the
very
second
properly.
diverse needs. The second point you wanted to stress was the diverse nature of the learning needs of the students. Thank you so
Yes.
much, ma'am. We move to Mini ma'am. Mini ma'am, how would daily formative automated assessment change the teaching approach? Since you talked about assessment for teaching, how do you think formative automated assessment will change that teaching learning approach?
Of course, I'm sure that today's generation of children, they are so much connected. They are so savvy with the devices, and anything interesting that we make, like an app-based, which is more of game-based for them, they're interested and they're more engaged. There is active participation. And we have seen that when we take digital tools, children are more engaged, and when it's coming from within, the performance is automatically expected to be much better. Now, if there is daily automated assessment, I'm sure that it is the daily dose that I was talking earlier, that, formative assessment, the whole idea behind is that children develop the daily study habits. And if there is assessment and I can see my progress, it is about myself best, moving towards that. So I'm sure that if digital tools with daily assessment plan comes, that's going to be a wonderful tool for the students.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Chitra ma'am, what do you think? What predictive capabilities would most benefit the board exam preparation for your students? What would you like to see a tool do for you?
Thank you, Neha ma'am. Like nowadays we are categorizing education as pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So this pandemic, in a way, it has done good only when we talk about the new type of education, 21st century skills and other things. Children, they don't like being lectured. They don't want to listen to others. Instead, they listen to the digital media. So they want to be educated self. So as the Nature Education 2023 study predicts, at-risk students can be identified through the AI technique 6 weeks earlier. And there is another statistics given by the International Journal of Education Technology. 89% accuracy is given through the AI-powered learning tools. And the Microsoft Education Research says the AI system improves year-end outcome by 34%. So these are all the statistics. Putting it to action, the child should understand what are the drawbacks that the child is having. So it is better to go and treat the disease that the child has through its own medicine. So Neo app is Neo AI assistant really could assist the child in understanding its own self, like self-assessment. These are my weak points. If I strengthen these weak points, I can excel. So instead of somebody else telling, like it is self-reflective to the child. By looking into it, the child can better understand and regain its strength instead of getting into some unwanted activities.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, Chitra ma'am.
Thank
Yes,
you.
this is totally empowering to the learners. And why have just learning as empowering? If assessment can become empowering, then they would have served their purpose. Thank you so much. Najma ma'am, very, very interesting question from you. When your teachers get this automated tool, this sidekick for them, how do you think they will utilize their weekends?
I think, they can very well go for more of professional development. They can spend some time taking, PD sessions, because once they are occupied making the assessments, putting all their effort throughout the week, making the exams and getting ready with the assessments. And if we have ready-made, like we have things, all these AI tools, if they're using all these things, then they can have some time for themselves. They can go for their professional development. They can also spend some more time on curriculum planning. They can also spend time arranging their classrooms to cater the students' need. That is one of the best things, because these days what I see in my own school is teachers are busy doing their work for, something that is not very required. They need to have their classroom environment, the atmosphere in a way that the child likes it. If I talk about their personal thing, I can say they can very well go for their, something where they can relax, they can have their family time, and also, they can have some social gathering, all these things. Teachers, I really pity them sometimes, because they don't have time for all these things. They get busy with different things. If they start using these tools, it will be very useful for them to have their own, they have some time for their own. And also, community engagement. They can have with student and family outreach. That will be, that is something that we always miss. We do not have time for this. So I think they can very well have community engagement.
I think all the leaders who have joined us today would put you as the role model. You have not just talked about, we actually have not just talked about the holistic progress of the child. We are not talking about the holistic progress of the entire educational landscape.
Yes.
Because it is the teacher who creates it. Like we have been stressing on assessment, pedagogy, anything we say, the teacher is the center. So if we can take care of the teacher in the multiple ways that Najma ma'am just shared with, then I think we are on a good learning graph as an educational community. Thank you, Najma ma'am. It was a wonderful answer, and I feel so excited already. Moninder ma'am, so how would automated progress report transform the parent communication?
Of course, well said, and all have almost answered all the features for it. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so basically, I would just add on, put a small, focus also on whenever we are putting up, if we want to intervene with our AI tools, I would just recommend at least 2-3 should be discussed here. Before that, we used to have that Lupa, we had Mentimeter, we had the Max Playground, a number of gamification games also, which were going on during the post-COVID era and the COVID era. What about the main question stands here is when we talk about the parent communication, are they really going to get satisfied, or we need to educate them too about orient would really matter in the starting of the session, where they'll be put up and introduced with these type of things, that how the assessment will come on for the whole year, the session, how it is divided, how the assessments will take part. But as well as that, the parents, they have one thing in mind for at least classes 9, 10, 11, 12, that everything will be based on the CBSE bifurcation of marks. So that will be a little bit of this, how we are going to merge both of them and then collab on it. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Truly insightful and lot to work out on. Involving the parents is a big task ahead of us, to all of us who are associated with education. Shelly ma'am, one quick question. What would you do with the resources that will be saved from the paperless assessments?
Of course, yes. Thank you so much, Shweta. Paperless assessment, I'm just reading out the major points now, what I have jotted down. It is like it will be investigated actually in the way to the direct enhancement of the school system. It is not only for the student only, on the point of view of the 360, where the management, teachers, students, and the parents. The first one, which is coming over here, which is the improved assessment system and the feedback system, where we will have the robust feedback system, innovation in the assessments, where ultimately our target will be the real-time assessment, which NEO is anyways providing, and the timely, meaningful feedback. So we don't have to wait for the PTI or PTMs, and it can be the continuous feedback system for the parents also, for the students also, for the teachers also. The second one, which is coming over here, that is the data-driven decision-making. Data-driven decision-making, if I'm talking about here, the personalized learning programs can be developed, as I have shared in my previous question also. And basically, it will provide us a tracker for each child. The journey from in the beginning of the session or journey in the end of the session, and the handing over to the next class will be more smooth and more effective and innovative. So, and it will help for the strategical planning also for this. The third one, which is coming, as ma'am has already said, Najma ma'am, teachers needs to be actually groomed properly, and their mental health is the key tool for the success of anything. So this type of tools basically will be the great support for the teachers and staff, which is apostrophic, categorizingly bold, underlined. It will reduce their workload. Because
Thank you so much, Shelly ma'am.
Their energy is largely going in the making the question papers, correcting the answer sheets, making the report cards. So these things can be utilized to give them the output, and their smartness can be utilized to prepare the strategies and the development of the student well-being, rather than in the paperwork. The last,
instead of the quantity. Instead of the quantity that we were stressing on, make more, do more, there will be more quality. Actually, the problems will be less if we could start with a more qualitative learning environment, rather than just finding out at the end that there was something missing.
What is the outcome? What was the job satisfaction? At least they will have something innovative to mention about it. So now when we are talking, it may increase the retention of teachers also, because they will find the school more with the more less work and the more innovative. Definitely, they will not try to move out from that system.
That's a wonderful insight, ma'am. Sanjay sir, we would like to close our
last point.
With a question.
Okay, Shelly ma'am. Yeah, that can be without pointing out on the sustainability, it cannot be possible. So it can be the environmental sustainable process and reducing carbon footprint. So paperless society we are putting, so it will help into that only. Thank you so much.
Definitely, Shelly ma'am, really not a point to be missed. That is what we need, even if no policy document tells us this is the need of the hour. Thank you, ma'am. Sanjay sir, how would the real-time analytics with a software, with an app like NEO AI, change your decision-making process as the leader?
All right. Great to get your feedback as the teaching process is going on, because usually we wait for the end of a term to assess what went right and what went wrong. And the great leap was that when instead of just assessing students, we started assessing our own teaching to find out whether there were gaps being created because of something not being right there. So definitely when you go in for a real-time assessment coming back, you can modify your lectures then and there. You can bring in those gaps in the next lecture when you walk in, rather than wait for the end of the term examination. If that is something that is too much to ask from even apps like NEO, then certainly no. But then certainly at least at the end, when you have the assessments in your hand, you know what you did right and what you did not do right as a teacher. So mid-flight repairs are always difficult, but very important, as timely interventions Any feedback that comes is welcome, but to a teacher, any feedback that can come during their classes, during their assessments. I mean, if they can have smaller after-school assessments, which can give them a feedback of how they performed in the class themselves, rather than how the students perform in examination, would be a great idea. So I would request, whoever is developing Neo, kindly take note of this. We would like to have instant feedback of our own teaching rather than waiting for students' feedback.
Thank you so much, sir. Shweta.
Yes, I would just like to take the opportunity and say that we are already doing it, and would be happy to give a demo. I thought that we will kind of intersperse this session with little demos, but in the interest of time, we couldn't do that. But I've shared a feedback form in the chat for everyone. Whoever wants to kind of have a demo of what are the capabilities of Neo AI, and also give us a feedback on how this whole session was. Neha, do we have a time to just answer that last round 3? Just one more line, no?
Let's do it in the next time. I'm sure everybody would love to join back where they can talk more, give us more, suggestions for each other. There would be more sharing of information. I'm sure we would like one more session sometime in the future.
All right, so we are cutting short and not doing the final rapid fire, wherein we wanted to kind of understand what's the most urgent assessment challenge. But it would be really nice to know from the leaders, and it would be great if you could just mention there is a subjective field in the feedback form itself. So you can probably mention it there, and then we can find that which challenge occurs the most, and then we can specifically do one session around that, deep dive into that challenge. And yes, Philomena ma'am, we will definitely come back with one more session. I think 1.5 hours couldn't do justice to today's theme. We will have to come up with a part 2, Neha ma'am.
Definitely. But it was very clear. Yes, ma'am.
There were a lot of principals who actually wanted to join this time, but because we did it on a very short notice, they couldn't give that time commitment. So maybe we'll have few more folks joining in next time.
Definitely. But it was very clear with our 1.5 hour discussion that everybody agrees that the AI assisted assessment, they aren't just a glimpse into the future now. They are actually the smart, adaptable co-pilot that we all need. All schools, irrespective of our locations, irrespective of what backgrounds our kids come from, our parents come from, we all need it. And it was very tremendously beautiful to find out with AI crunching all the data and personalizing the feedback. It is not just the time which the teacher is saving. There is so much more time, so much more creative resources that we all agree on that can be generated to ensure that our students are getting the guidance that they need. Our teachers are also progressing the way a person should progress in life. So, that was a beautiful thing that came out with the discussions. So I'm sure we are all ready to challenge all the norms and, spark innovation in a new way. And we will definitely meet in the next session, talk in depth about the needs, about the problems that are still haunting the system. And we would surely like to look at how schools which are using Neo AI already, who are the pilot schools for you, Shweta, we would like to actually see how it is working in action. Because you showing is different, but if the teacher comes and tells us, if the assessment in charges come and tell us how things are actually working out for them, I think that will be a great help. So do plan for that.
Yeah, we'll definitely do. Vibha ma'am, Srishti ma'am, you are here. Mayank sir is not here, but yeah, we'll plan a session like that very soon. I think that's a great idea. So
it's good evening from my side, and thank you all. And it was a learning for me because being with principals is always a great pleasure. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Shweta.
Thank you, everybody.
All the best for whatever Neo is doing.
Thank you, Shweta ma'am. Thank you, Neha ma'am.
Thank you.